Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today you are joining me in my Golf MK8 GTI, and in this video today I'm going to be talking to you about the build quality and the questionable materials that have been used in the MK8 Golf. Not only the GTI, but as I'm in the GTI and this is a MK8, I'm pretty sure that the materials used across the range are going to be very similar. So one thing to note is that the touch points in the MK8 are pretty decent, as in the steering wheel. I mean, this is a GTI, so the steering wheel, I think I've said in one of my previous vids, it's probably one of the best steering wheels in a performance car that I've ever held in my hands. Then you've got, like, say, the switch gear for the indicators and the wipers, and they carried forward from what I can see from the Mark 7, and I never really had any issues with the way they were in that car. So I think the touch points are pretty good. The only thing I really don't like about the Mark 8, especially on the GTI, are these flappy paddles, because they don't even feel like paddles, they feel more like buttons, and they're very thin, they're very plasticky. But you know, hopefully I might be addressing those in the not too distant future. Other than that, I think the touch points, you know, across, like, say, the door cards up here, the indicators, the steering, the switch gear, it's pretty much of high quality materials, and I don't really see how they would have cheaped out on something like that. So no issues with that. However, some of the materials that they've used around the door, I think, are quite basic and quite questionable, you know, from a VW. I know it's probably the same situation in the same kind of group of cars across other manufacturers, like the 1 Series, the Audi A3, although I think the Audi A3 might have some better materials. But if you just listen to this, they are quite scratchy materials, and if I bring the camera forward you can see exactly what I'm on about. So this area down here is quite cheap. The area down the bottom down here on the door card, that again is quite cheap as well. So let's move on to the door pockets. They are quite deep, as you can see there, and they are nicely lined with felt. Now, previous Mark 7s, they were lined with felt on the inside as well as the outside, whereas with this Mark 8 it just looks like they've lined it just over there on the floor. The inner side down here is just hard brittle plastic, so even though you might put your keys in there or your bottle, it will rattle against this side. The rest of the door card down here is quite cheap plastic feel. This is actually not too bad when you're feeling, like, say, the door handle itself, but it is kind of hard brittle plastics. I think that the door card on the Mark 7 was a much better design compared to the Mark 8. This section here is quite nice and soft, but only on the front. We'll go into the back in a bit. The rest of the dash design, obviously these are all touch screens, you know, once the car is switched on and what have you, and obviously tells you there if the lights are on auto or whatnot. This I don't have a problem with because it's all touchscreen. It's pretty much the same as my Audi A7 on that side over there, so this looks quite nice, and the touch points again here feel quite good. Obviously you've got your flappy paddles here, or your buttons rather, which feel quite cheap, and on this side, but then your indicator stalks, as I was mentioning before, you know, they've got quite a nice kind of a touch to them as well. So moving down to the bottom here, this side of the center console seems to be of decent quality. It is obviously hard plastic, but it's not like it's kind of brittle or anything, and it's got a nice kind of a matte finish, which doesn't seem too bad. These buttons here seem of decent quality as well, and obviously you have, like, the engine start button up there, which pulsates in red, which is a nice feature. The gear switch thing rather than the gear stick lever, that again has got quite a nice sort of a feel, so that's not a major problem on that side there. The only thing down here which I have got a bit of an annoyance with, I've got obviously my Audi key there, is the section down here. You don't really have like a tray that's just open. I don't really mind it because I can just throw my keys in there on my phone, although my phone is just chilling out over there on top of the wireless charger, because my phone doesn't have wireless charging. Never mind. This section here, it would have been nice if it was like a tray, you know, just give it a nice clean look. But again, all of this kind of plastics around here, they are quite, you know, kind of cheap. But I suppose that's the same as what you'd get in most other cars of the same kind of class. You do have a nice feel. Got my keys there. You do have this nice little switch here which adjusts, like, say, the cup holder, which is pretty good. A bit of a faff to push back in, but there we go. This has got a nice little sheen to it, and it's got a nice feel as well. It kind of feels quite nice, although it is quite plasticky. But my biggest gripe here is the glove box. Now, previously on all Golfs, and even the Mark 7, probably even like the 5 and the 6 and whatnot, the glove box was again lined with felt, and this one, it's not lined with felt, it's just a hard brittle plastic piece. So if I don't know, throw something in there like a set of keys or whatever, they're gonna just rattle about, but it is what it is, I suppose, from that point. I do like this section of the dash down here. I think this is quite nice, and the vents, for example, they are quite nicely damped as well. They are quite low down. I don't really have a problem with that, because when you are holding the steering wheel from here, not only is the steering wheel heated, but then you do get a nice sort of blast off cool air or hot air or whatever, like the weather temperature might be from outside, and however you set it, you do get that nice sort of blast on your hands as well, which is pretty good. So one thing I'm not too sure about is the new logo of VW. It's all kind of black, and in certain light you do get, like, say, the shine off like the V and the W. As you can see my camera right through there, and in other lights it's just like where I'm sat and how I'm looking at it, it just looks like just plain black. So not too sure what they're doing with that, but it's a bit of a distraction when I'm driving. So one area where I think they made a decent improvement is in the footwell area around here. I do like how we've got aluminium pedals. They pretty much mimic the same design as what, again, I've got on the Audi A7 over there. But for me, one of the biggest thing is when I've got my foot on the footrest there, the amount of gap I've now got between my leg and the center console, you know, that is pretty good. Because on the Mark 7, if I'm on the motorway and I've literally got my foot on the footrest, the center console was literally jamming right against my leg, and again, because these are hard brittle plastics, it really starts to ache against your leg. So I could never really get comfortable in the Mark 7, whereas with this one there's ample amount of space, so I don't have that issue in this. And also I do like, and again this was something that they had in the Mark 7, is when you've got your, I can't even show you because this is one big plastic button here anyway, but when you've got your adaptive cruise control on, you can use that section over there as a footrest, so you are literally just sat without any feet on the pedals or just chilling out like cross-legged like that. You can just rest your feet, and I think that makes the whole driving experience quite nice on the motorway. So I've just jumped in the back just to see what it's like back here, and one thing I must say is I'm not impressed with, like, say, the materials used here for the passengers, especially in the back here. So for example, the door cards on the front are a little bit more kind of squidgy material, whereas the back ones down here, they are just hard brittle plastic, as you can hear and see. And it's pretty unfair for, like, say, the rear passengers if they want to just chill out like that, because that sill or that window, the door card, is quite brittle plastic, and it just begins to like hurt your elbow. The rest of, like, say, the door card is pretty much the same as the front, apart from that one trim area. But I do like how you got like some big windows around here, so it just feels quite nice and airy. I mean, the other thing that I do like is here you've got the tartan cloth seats again, like the way you have at the front, being the GTI. And I think from a comfort point they're pretty good, because they seem to be like a little bit more indented as well, so you kind of sit in them rather than on them. The armrest is pretty decent. You've got cup holders, but the cup holders are literally there, so you always end up putting your arm in there. So could I just use something else on this area here perhaps, but here is what it is. And I do like how we've got these lighting up here. Yeah, I flopped that because the car's ignition is switched off at the moment, but yeah, they're pretty bright as well. The other thing that is a bit of an annoyance is like these seats, for example, and I know my passengers in the rear, they don't like the one-piece seat because they don't get like the nice view up ahead. As you can see, if I'm sat here, that's all I'm seeing. You do get these two pockets here, so you can lock your phone in there. And I think the material used on the seat, the back end of them, because it's kind of material, it's quite a nice material that they've used, and you can see, like, as in, you know, how comfortable this is, even as like a passenger sat back here. And you obviously got these kind of seat pockets, which is quite nice. I mean, the other thing I don't like back here is, again, the center console. That's obviously cloth with the red stitching, which is quite nice, but then this bit here is again quite cheap plastic. And the vents at the back here, they seem to be quite cheap. I mean, if you kick one of them as you're getting in and out the car, you're probably going to just break them. It does have three-way climate control, so the rear passengers can set their own. And then down there you've got USB-C ports, which is quite modern, I suppose. So I can say that for the rear passengers, the quality of materials used here is not as good as for the driver and the passenger at the front, but I think it's the same story with like the A3 and the Seat Leon. I can say though, when I had my M140i, the rear door cards and the build quality in that and the materials used were probably a little bit better than what they are in this. The one thing that I would say is you do have, even down here for example, felted door cards, which you don't get in like well, in that BMW that I had. In fact, even in my M4 you never got anything like that. So that's something that's quite nice. As you can see, I've got like a bottle of water here, and you can just pop that in there and it won't really rattle around much. So I think the materials used are hit and miss. In some areas they're pretty good, in other areas I think they're a bit poor, but that is just the way the VW group are going down at the moment. So there we go guys. I really think that the quality of materials used in this Golf GTI are, in my eyes, probably sort of substandard. The competition out there now does things a lot better. I was hoping that this car would have a better quality interior, but I bought this car for the GTI-ness. But if you are looking at buying a VW Golf, or even the A3 or like the Seat Leon, I think all VW group cars now are using the same kind of materials. But the competition might now be doing things a lot better. Like for example, the Toyota Corolla, the new Honda Civic Type R would definitely give, you know, the interior of this car a run for its money. If you have found this vid informative, then definitely give it a like, share, subscribe if you haven't done so already, leave a comment in the comment section below, and hopefully guys, I'll see you on the next one. Take care, bye.